Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network. Phil says to get your boxes out of his apartment. Let's take care of business first.
He's not going anywhere. It's full of body armor and stuff. He should be very happy.
Yeah, exactly. Could come in handy. Hopefully not, but
Malcolm, are you still in Israel, or are you back?
I am still in Israel.
Okay.
And I will be for the next 2 weeks. God willing, what do they say? That the river don't rise, and that in the next 48 hours we're not being bombarded by hundreds of missiles. So
yeah,
we shall see.
And Malcolm, we just talked to Philip about how all of these issues are connected. Russia and Putin and Hamas and Ukraine, and we just got the good news that it was at 207, Jody, of Ukrainian hostages. They got them back from Russia. I mean, boy, let's hope and pray that we get the Hamas hostages back, or that something changes in this tragic nightmare.
Yeah, I agree with you. These two democracies are really connected at the hip. And it didn't appear so when the Ukrainian war started out. We know that Prime Minister Netanyahu remained neutral and was actually sort of throwing his lot in with Putin. The Israelis here were furious about that.
Yeah.
Right after 10/7, there was an Israeli member of Knesset that met with, I believe it was Prime Minister Lavrov or Medvedev, and just tore him a new one. I mean, said, you train Hamas, you gave them weapons, we're coming for you, Ukraine is going to be our ally when this is done, we're going to finish with Hamas, and we're coming for you. And I was like, whoa, someone has just made a big connection between the two things. And we had indications that PMC Wagner did train Hamas, and that they firing the same cruise missiles at U.S. forces in Israel that Russia's firing at Ukraine, Iranian-made, Shahed drones.
I was just
Phil is correct.
I was just going to say, so people understand what you're saying, Malcolm, you retweeted the suicide drone used by Iran proxy groups to kill 3 U.S. Army soldiers in Jordan yesterday was an Iranian-produced Shahed drone, the same ones Russia is getting from Iran and striking Ukraine with. I mean, This is the thing. It is all connected, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Look, the axis of evil is Russia, Iran, and all of these Iranian proxies. The Houthis, Hamas, the Iraqi, Kataib Hezbollah is the name of them, amongst 25 other Iranian-backed militias in Iraq. And then Hezbollah, the big one, in southern Lebanon that has a lot of capacity, tens of thousands of rockets. In fact, I was just at the northern border with the Israeli army the other day, it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday, the day before. And we went within 30 meters of the Lebanese border in a village that had to be evacuated. So there's over 100,000 people are evacuated between northern Israel and southern Israel. And this village used to have 700 people in it. Now there's just 2 guys who are from the village who are soldiers, and a very nice dog named Lucy.
Oh, Lucy! Yeah. I've been saving this tweet for you. I've read it to Phil Ittner as well from David Frum. On October 20th, President Biden asked for $106 billion to aid Ukraine and Israel against attack by Russia, Iran, and their proxies. For 100 days, House Republicans have said no. Today, Iranian proxies have killed Americans. I mean, Malcolm, you and I talk about we've been talking about this for years, how unfortunately some of the enemies of America are within. They're, fellow, what did Phil call them? Fellow travelers with Vladimir Putin.
Fellow travelers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was on a space yesterday on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it.
Twitter.
And
Twitter.
There were a enormous load of Trump supporters on there. And, I just said, look, I'm just going to have to read you the Riot Act. These guys are getting away with murder because, they know that the United States, certainly under Donald Trump, would misuse power. They know they're betting on Trump coming back into office to create chaos, mayhem, and end American constitutional republic. And these people were screaming and yelling at me like they had never heard this before. And I said, it's just tribalism. You're part of a tribe.
Yeah.
This is the guy you want because you want to rule over people.
Well, we talked to...
And
Yeah, we talked to Philip too about like everyone's freaking out about what Nancy Pelosi said, that some of these ceasefire activists are I don't know how she said it, connected to Russia. Well, I don't know whether specifically, Malcolm, but this is what Russia always wants, is chaos and division in America. Another tweet I say for you: where are the large-scale sweeping protests to get funding for Ukraine against Russian attacks now that funding is stalled due to Putin's puppets in Congress? Where are the anti-genocide protesters quiet about Putin? I mean, the fact is, we should care about both of these democracies, right? Whether we agree with Netanyahu, and I don't. I can't stand him. I hope they get rid of him, but like...
I've been in Israel the better part of a month. I've been here before, but I was in the north a couple of decades ago when it was really Ashkenazim, a lot of European Holocaust survivors and their children. Now, this is the most multicultural, multiracial, multi-faith democracy I've seen. It's just amazing. There are people of color everywhere, and they're all Israelis or in the Israeli army. They've got lots of Christians that they brought in from South Sudan. This is worth defending. Do we have to support the government of Netanyahu? Absolutely not. Right. I'd like to see him go as quickly as possible. But they've chosen a unity government until this problem with Hamas is done with, because this country's traumatized. All the hotels here in Tel Aviv and in Haifa, some of the biggest hotels are full of displaced people who can't go home because of their, the bombardments by Hamas and Hezbollah. And before the ceasefire advocates go, oh, well, this is a good reason to ceasefire. Ceasefire saves Hamas. Hamas has rejected every ceasefire proposal since November, and it saves them. And they said their last offer just 2 days ago is, you will stop all combat operations, permanent ceasefire, and then we will give you all except the soldiers.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're not here for the salvation of a terrorist group. And if you are, yes, we want to save the children. Yes, we want to save the women in there. And the
death toll, Malcolm, I will say the death toll is unacceptable. Whether it's the Biden administration is saying that I've been talking about. I got into
death toll past 1 is unacceptable.
Yeah, and I was talking about. I got into an argument about Gaza with a 25-year-old, and this is what you talk about a lot. And by the way, I feel like we can't be patronizing. She is really, really smart. I've known her my whole life. She's my best friend's daughter. And I'm telling you, this thing is real, that young people, and understandably, Malcolm, are horrified by the death toll in Gaza. But I have to say, the disinformation is the thing you and I have been talking about forever, because I just said a simple thing like, well, Hamas broke the ceasefire. There was a ceasefire. And she's like, oh, no. Because they have their own universe of information on TikTok or wherever. And she's like, well, I'm not pro-Hamas. But some of the stuff she was saying was more sort of talking points from Hamas, and I don't know how we combat that. Do you?
Well, it's and you've got to have people who want to accept facts. Someone yesterday said we're in a post-truth world. I said, no, we are in a world where truth exists. We are in a post-belief in truth world.
Right.
And people are willing to believe any stupid and crazy thing if it's told to them by, somebody who entertains them, Russell Brand or Joe Rogan or somebody actually said Jack Posobiec. And I was like, oh, you mean the urinalysis officer? So, these guys, you have to understand that when I'm 62 years old. I know I don't look it, but hey, I'm giving
black don't crack.
Some kid said to me the other day, he goes, what do you know about the Taif Accords and the Jeddah agreements? And I go, I don't give them much thought. And he goes, well, you don't know what they are. And I go, the Taif Accords ended the Lebanese civil war. I go, I was there when that happened. Okay, I was physically present in the room. This would be like me arguing about Normandy with a guy who landed in Normandy.
Right.
These kids get these little kernels of data and they think, oh, I'm gonna got you on this thing. It's like, bro, you can't gotcha me if I was in the room where it happened or if I was living that reality.
As they would say in Hamilton. Now, quickly,
us olders.
Yeah, go ahead.
Us elders, we actually have lived some life, and maybe you should learn from us.
Yeah. Well, here's because you're man enough. Here's your hate tweet for today. Ron
All
tweets
right.
on issues such as Ukraine. Malcolm Nance is very good, but while he opposes genocide by Russia and Ukraine, he appears to support genocide by Israel and Gaza. Genocide is always wrong by any nation everywhere.
3 years ago, I was invited to Auschwitz to speak at a conference called Never Again, Really.
Right.
And it was about how they see all the hallmarks of real genocide coming up in right-wing extremism around the world. And they had victims from Cambodia, Bosnia, Rwanda, all survivors of mass murders of nearly 1 million people each. So when I hear people say, these numbers in Gaza are genocide, no, they're not. Okay? They've had a 1,100% population increase. Genocide is when you want to exterminate every individual because of who they are and try to do that. The reason that the International Criminal Court of Justice didn't do anything and pretty much absolved Israel of genocide was because they said they essentially literally defined war, which is where people are being harmed, killed, or hurt in part or in whole. The point is, this war is not being waged for the sole purpose of killing every Palestinian in Gaza. It is not. It's against a terrorist entity. And people need to get better effing dictionaries because they're stupid. And it sounds patronizing, but my dad
that's not
fought in
helpful.
World War II. I didn't, but my point is.
See, this is why I have to have Dean Obadala on to counter you every week.
Yeah, but Dean.
Yes.
You can have Dean on, but you've got to learn to understand. There are people that might understand this a little better than you. I only got 40 years there. I spent my first 10 years there, working this mission.
Yeah, I know. And here's I was saying, it's interesting the UN, who obviously is always thought of as being very, anti-Israel. Obviously, even they did not call for a ceasefire. They called for the release of all the hostages. They did call for more restraint from Israel. But what do you know about this? So this latest controversy, an Israeli intelligence dossier that prompted a cascade of countries to halt funds for UN Palestinian aid includes allegations that some staff took part in abductions and killings during the October 7th raid. The 6-page dossier says that 190 UN RWA employees, including teachers, had doubled as Hamas or Islamic Jihad militants. The Palestinians have accused Israel of falsifying information. This is the problem with the information. I'm sure IDF puts out misinformation sometimes, and a lot of us don't know how to digest all this.
This is raw intelligence.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. One of the things that we're very good at in the intelligence community is not going around and interrogating people and waterboarding. We go in and we find the computer database of everyone who was paid. And we go by your records. Your personnel office is the most valuable intelligence we can get.
Yeah.
And UNRWA is an agency that was established in 1948 for the sole purpose of maintaining and assisting Palestinian refugees when they left what is now Israel on the promise of all Jews being slaughtered by the combined Arab armies. The combined Arab armies lost. Those people never refused to go back home or didn't want to live in a Jewish state, and they lived in these refugee camps. These refugee camps are literally concrete cities. Gaza is a concrete city, 10-story highs. There are no tents here. Now there are because of this war, but UNRWA became essentially a Palestinian-run anti-Israel propaganda center. Kids did have projects where they had to practice executing Jews and promise to become martyrs. All of that is deeply documented for decades. So all you got to do is type that in. No other refugee in the world gets this status of where their kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, and great-great-grandkids all get paid as refugees. United Nations High Commission for Refugee, UNHCR, manages every other refugee in the world, but UNRWA is a special agency strictly for the West Bank and Gaza.
Okay.
And it turns out maybe thousands of them were members of Hamas.
Yeah, I just have a little more time. There's just obviously a lot of stories that I just want to get your take on. Because again, like,
Sure.
if I heard they voted out
Before
Netanyahu,
we have a war.
Right,
yeah, but
right.
I mean, if I heard they got rid of Netanyahu today and stopped building settlements and got someone that wants a 2 states, I'd be like, good. And when I hear they
Nothing
killed,
will change here.
and when I hear they killed Hamas leaders, I'm like, good. But apparently, there's controversy even around this. The Israeli Special Forces, right, with went into the hospital and executed 3 high-ranking Hamas members. So what do you know about that? And I know that again.
Well,
go ahead.
I know quite a bit. Look, if I'm not mistaken, it was just a month ago that every advocate in the Western world was screaming at Israel, saying, "Stop using the main army, use the special forces in selected raids."
Right.
So now Israel uses the special forces in selective raid. They have this highly specialized unit. If you've ever seen the TV show Fauda, where they dress as Palestinians, and they're essentially Israeli Arab or people who look like it, and they raided that hospital and infiltrated deep behind Hamas West Bank's lines to get top 3 leaders who were hiding in the hospital.
Yeah.
And it was a private hospital. It wasn't a public hospital. And they went in and did a selective assassination. These guys are combatants. Israel is legally at war here, right? So this is like saying the bin Laden raid was a horrible assassination.
Yeah.
Sometimes some people need to be taken off the chessboard, or checkers in this case.
As they say in the intelligence business. All right. Malcolm, I would talk to you next week. I
one last thing.
I defend you. Every
the
week I
next
say Malcolm
24
Nance is
hours.
not for genocide.
Yeah, don't forget we might be at war in the next 24 hours.
No.
So be
Thanks
prepared.
for dropping that.
Yeah. Can we not
So to
talk
You're
speak.
about
welcome.
that?
Bye.
So to
Love
speak.
you. Bye.
Thanks,
Okay, see
Malcolm.
ya. Bye.
Well,